Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, think it's no secret that this may be one of the most significant seasons in Los Angeles Chargers football history, with one of the biggest moves that this franchise has ever made in hiring head coach Jim Harbaugh. That's been at the start of every sentence of Chargers fans, been at the highlight of every title revolving around this team. Harbaugh, one of the biggest stories of my lifetime for the Chargers. But I think it also comes with another narrative that I think is equally as important, something we've kind of touched on previous videos, but I wanted to give a full video's worth of attention to in this one, as we have finally found and been revealed all the names of the complete coaching staff coming into the Chargers for 2024. That is also a huge, massive deal for this team, as I don't know if I've ever seen such a huge turnover of names and coaches in my time of being a Chargers fan. One of the biggest qualities and strengths that you're going to find behind a Jim Harbaugh, surrounding himself with competent, intelligent coaches to not just elevate his talents, but the talents of his players and his staff. It's going to be a pretty awesome thing to watch this team turn around over one season and find success, not just on the field with the players, but also with the guys running the team in the back end and in the coaching staff. Pretty huge turnover of names. We're going to go through all of them. Yes, it's going to be a large amount of names. Might be a long video, but maybe one of the most important that we put out this season. So let's all get ready to take our medicine, learn something, and sit down as we enjoy some of this wholesome Chargers content. Before we do, shout out to Underdog Fantasy. The NFL season is over, but Underdog Fantasy keeps the party going, at least here in the NBA so far. Newcomers enjoy this LeBron James special for this weekend. And again, use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. So I'm out of time. You guys take the like, sub, bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera, action. All right, everybody. You got your complete guide to the Chargers coaching staff of the 2024 season. Pretty much a reveal as well. This list, of course, released just yesterday. Had some time to go through all these names, pick up a couple of facts here and there as to why the Chargers and its fans should be excited to add them to the team. Some guys old, most guys new. Let's jump right into it, as we do have a lot of names to go over. We're going to start from the very top, okay? Chargers. And again, we've already talked plenty on Jim Harbaugh, about a lot of the coordinators and some of the big names. So just as a reminder for some of the top dogs at the top, all right? Jim Harbaugh, like I said, the biggest move in my history as a fan, which is pushing 15, 16 seasons. Going to be a revelation at head coach for the Chargers. Bring in the best opportunity, in my humble opinion, for the Chargers to get a Super Bowl in the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. Going to be a fantastic era under Jim Harbaugh, one that gives Chargers fans the most hope for success. And man, dude, Justin Herbert is going to love this guy. And it all started at the top with Jim. Every single move feels like has Jim Harbaugh's fingerprints on it, which is very, very, very important, okay? Cohesiveness and vision is something that I can't stress is so important with operations this big. Now, again, I'm a Star Wars guy. I'm sorry, sue me, whatever. But take this new Star Wars movies as an example, right? Those movies kind of sucked, okay? I'm sorry. I will still watch them. I enjoy them, but not the best movies. And it's because they didn't have one cohesive vision before they got things kicked off. A way you can avoid that and really give yourself the best chance of success at building a franchise is to go under one banner, one unit, right? And with one vision, try and execute a big idea with the best results. Get one guy with the grand plan, and that's going to be Jim Harbaugh in this situation. So Jim Harbaugh, we're all behind you, man. The force is with this one. It's strong with this one. And every single hire, keep in mind as we go through this list, has some influence of Jim Harbaugh behind it, which is going to make the chances of success and cohesiveness with this entire coaching staff that much more likely to sync and work, all right? So next up, of course, something that you don't see a lot nowadays is the hiring of a GM after your head coach. Of course, they want the GM to have a big say in who the coach is. The Chargers kind of did the opposite with this hire, bringing in Joe Ortiz, the man with 26 plus years experience with the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, there's a connection there. Jim Harbaugh, very much so closely connected to his brother's team with the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, those guys certainly helped each other out in their football careers we'll be facing this season, which is going to be very exciting to watch. Either way, Ortiz, hugely experienced GM. He's going to bring a lot to the table in terms of value for the Chargers. It has an eye for the draft. This dude has come in hot, dude, with some of the best drafting that we've seen in the last decade with the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, an assistant with that organization now gets the chance to call the shots with the Chargers. So a very, very good hire right there. All right, and again, we're kind of blowing through the top guys as we've already sort of talked about them. Greg Roman, probably the one that gets Chargers fans the least excited, right? I think a lot of us were looking towards other names, but you know what? In the end, we got to trust that Jim Harbaugh knows what he's doing. It's very evident that we've got to turn this run game around immediately. One of the biggest principles behind a Jim Harbaugh-led offense is going to be a strong run game, which the Chargers sorely lack right now. Now, of course, Greg Roman maybe gets a brownie point or two taken off his name because he hasn't been the most successful passing guy in the league when it comes to his offenses, but there's no denying that he's been one of the best run game minds in the NFL for a while now, and I think that's a big reason why Jim Harbaugh wanted to take this radical left turn from a passing team to a running team, take some pressure off of just Justin Herbert, and find some success on the ground. I think, if anything, guys, in terms of team building, get ready for offensive line and running back because this offense is about to look a whole lot different in 2024. All right, next up, defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. Lots of us super excited about this one. Jesse Minter, one of the hottest names in the offseason as far as available coordinators to come out of college into the pros. Built a very, very nice defense along with McDonald out there in Michigan, a hybrid of the Baltimore Ravens, their own flair and touch on it. It's going to be a very nasty, physical, hard-nosed defense. It's going to rock some socks off. That's all I'm going to tell you guys. Jesse Minter, Chargers lucky to have this guy. I say this all the time. Even if the Chargers didn't get Jim Harbaugh, but we did get Jesse Minter, that still would have been a huge hire. The fact that we got both of them, chef's kiss. We're going to see some big change on both sides of the ball when it comes to physicality, man. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. Next up, we got ourselves a special teams coordinator. Of course, a familiar face that a lot of us were hoping to see return. Honestly, I didn't know if this one was going to happen. I was pretty convinced that Jim was going to bring his son in, Jay Harbaugh, to run the special teams like he did in Michigan. Instead, Jay goes and takes a job with the Seattle Seahawks, and the Chargers get to retain one of the best special teams coaches in all of the NFL. This dude had top stats in pretty much every category. Ryan Ficken is now proven, coming into his third season now at the Chargers. We know what we got in this guy. He's been fantastic. The draft has certainly been helping him out. He's been developing young talent in that way as well. Ryan, fantastic retaining of a coach for the Chargers in 2024. All right, and then lastly, of some of the big guys that we've been talking a lot about already, Ben Herbert. Perhaps the best strength and conditioning coach in the entire world. He is coming to the Chargers to help break the curse. Of course, injuries happen, stuff like that happens, but Ben Herbert gives you your best opportunity to be ready for game day. And then, of course, he builds a lot of culture in the locker room. If anything, from Jim Harbaugh at the top of the list all the way to the last guy we're going to hear on the list today, culture builders. All of these guys are building a championship mentality kind of team out here, guys with experience, with knit and grit, and I feel like Ben Herbert kind of instills all of that in the weight room, and it's going to build a lot of character and a lot of, honestly, again, a better chance at staying healthy throughout the season. So Ben Herbert, Chargers got massively lucky to get this guy. Again, one of those guys we didn't think was coming. Well, he's here, and he's going to make a big difference for the Chargers going forward. All right. Next up, let's start getting into some of these names that maybe we are not all as familiar with as Chargers fans, but names nonetheless that we should know by heart by now. Let's start off here with Chad Alexander, the new assistant GM of the Chargers. Again, just right off the bat, just building a culture with winning at the forefront of everybody's mind and the forefront of the mentality of the work ethic. Chad Alexander, again, an assistant GM. top of the list down to the bottom list, every single, down to the janitor in the building, everyone needs to have a winning mentality. And Chad Alexander does hold that. Of course, we need to see some connections. Most of the time, you're going to find that with every single hire. He's got 20 years experience with Joe Ortiz, the Chargers' new GM. They were together on the Ravens, did some fantastic things there. Most recently, Chad has been with the New York Jets, in which he had a hand in drafting maybe it's one of the most impactful classes in 2022 for that franchise. They went out and got Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, both of which won their Rookie of the Year awards on offense and defense. Revolutionary guy. I've heard that he's hugely respected throughout the league, has so much influence. He may bring some New York Jets along with him to the Chargers, but his reach is pretty far in the NFL. So welcome to the squad, Chad Alexander as the assistant GM. Next up, run game coach slash or coordinator slash tight end coach for the Chargers, Andy Bischoff. Hopefully we're saying that right. He's got a long history in the NFL as a coach, most recently as a tight ends coach for the New York Giants and Houston Texans since 2021. The connection here is he did coach with the Ravens from 2015 to 2020. Of course, giving him connections with our GM, Joe Ortiz, and then the Harbaugh family. It almost feels like family, like, you know, in a mafia sense. When you talk about the Harbaughs in the NFL, right? There's families, right? There's the Lombardis. There's the Harbaughs, right? Like, they're all kind of held in very high regard out here. And that branching tree is going to be felt throughout the Chargers in terms of the Harbaugh influence, of course. This guy's certainly going to be a help. The Chargers definitely, I think, want to develop tight ends over the next couple of seasons to help their run game. You can expect to see at least some draft capital invested into that position. I think bringing in a guy that has some nice experience there is definitely going to help. And, of course, the connection to the Ravens certainly is going to help there, too. I would say his best work most recently came with Darren Waller and the New York Giants this last couple of seasons, all right? Next up, I can't believe this is a reality for the Chargers. Like, the fact that I know who the linebacker coach is that we hired is a miracle there in of itself. Of course, I'm not going to know every person in the background of every team. But, hey, look, it's Navorro Bowman, future Hall of Fame linebacker, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, helped dominate the league with Jim Harbaugh back in the day. Navorro Bowman, dudes! What's happening? He's being hired as the Chargers' new linebackers coach. It's going to be his first gig in the NFL as a coach. Hugely respected name in the NFL. Of course, we all know who this man is. Of course, the chemistry is there. Of course, the connection is super obvious. I cannot believe this is our reality. This is a great move. When you talk about bringing in personalities and names that players relate to, whether it be of the same age or they're players of the same position, I feel like a lot of the times that's responded to very positively. Bringing in a legend at your position, that's going to make waves, man. It really is. I like it. I love it. I think it's a fantastic move by the Chargers. I was kind of hoping it would be Sean Merriman. I heard some rumors about that. I think Sean has a lot of things going on with his Lights Out program, which has been fantastic as well. But, man, dude, what a move by the Chargers coaching staff to get a legend of the game out here to lead the young linebackers into the future. And the Chargers are going to need help there. So, Bowman, man, let's rock your socks off already, man. Next up, we got passing game coordinator Marcus Brady coming in, who's developing quite a reputation for himself. Of course, last season with the Philadelphia Eagles, they found some success there with Jalen Hurts. But he's been coaching a while, too, even before that with the Indianapolis Colts from 2018 to 2022. It's given him a nice long list of quarterbacks that he's been able to work with. And when you think about these guys in particular, and the point of their careers that they were being coached by Marcus Brady in terms of that offense, I like what I see in terms of quarterback, man. He worked with Andrew Luck in Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers, of course, Matt Ryan. I think Rivers and Ryan had some surprising success with the Indianapolis Colts in that time. And then, of course, Jalen Hurts, who's been developing into one of the brighter young quarterbacks. So that passing game certainly thrived behind Marcus Brady. And it's someone that we hope to see work very closely with Greg Roman to keep that passing game relevant. It will be relevant, I promise you guys. It's not. If anything, that run game is going to make the passing game that much more deadly. But I would say, if anything, more efficient. And that's where Brady comes in to help design packages to bank and capitalize on those opportunities. All right. Next up, DB coach Steve Clinkscale. I hope that we're saying his name correctly. DB's coach out here. Of course, there's an obvious connection. You're going to see a couple of guys out here wearing, the navy blue and the yellow for those Michigan men. This is, again, a hire that I think is going to help the Chargers in terms of cohesiveness and finding chemistry between all the guys coming in from Michigan and college ball and all the guys with huge experience behind the NFL, like Baltimore Ravens ex-coaches, et cetera, et cetera. I like what I'm seeing out here. He's been a coach for a long time. Since 2021, I think he's been with Kentucky, Illinois. I think Steve Clinkscale is going to be a pretty good hire for the Chargers long term. But again, not much I could find him other than he's been pretty dang decent with Michigan in his time there, but has been around a while. All right. Next up, another familiar face. This actually kind of makes me go crazy, man. What an awesome move, right? It feels like the Chargers every few years, they find themselves an awesome coach at a certain position. Before Shane Day, who you're seeing on the screen right now, we had a man by the name of Pep Hamilton, who was awesome. Dude was great, right? And he helped Justin Herbert come into his rookie season, win Offensive Rookie of the Year, was fantastic, broke a whole bunch of records. Kind of made me wonder if his name was considered, because if you guys didn't know, Pep was also connected to Jim Harbaugh as his OC in Michigan for a while there too, and it kind of felt like he was moving in that direction. But instead, the Chargers go back to Shane Day, who was credited by Justin Herbert to be a big benefit to his game. Shane Day was hugely loved by Justin Herbert, and it kind of feels like this reunion and this move and this hiring was made specifically because of Herbert's request, which is awesome. Shane Day has been fantastic. He's been all over the league, from the Niners to the Chargers. Most recently, he went to the Texans for 1 year to help out C.J. Stroud a little bit, nudge him towards Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now he's coming back to the Chargers. This is great, man. I love it when you see something like this happen. A relationship, develops between a player and a coach, and they end up having an opportunity to play together once again at some point. So that's awesome, man. QB coach Shane Day, that's a knock it out of the park kind of hire right there. Next up, offensive line coach, we got Mike Devlin. I swear that I've heard his name independently from my research here. I can't remember where. Maybe I'm missing something obvious here, but this is, if you're doing some research on why the Chargers hired him, this is another guy that comes from the Ravens tree. He coached there from, I think, just a couple of seasons, right? 2022, 2020, so the last couple of years. But before that, he was with the Jets, the Texans for a long, long time, 2006 to 2022. All right, so in terms of experience, which is something that is kind of at the forefront of a lot of these hires, if you're asking Jim Harbaugh, like, we want a guy who's been around, who knows this position. And then other positions, he wants guys with pedigree, right? It feels like Mike Devlin is one of those guys that carries a lot of experience. And of course, this being maybe one of the more important hires that goes under the radar because of how much this unit, this position, is going to influence Harbaugh's offense. He wants to be, for lack of a better term, a balanced team that is going to be relying a lot more on the run than the Chargers have in a long time, and that's why this position in particular is so important to get right. So offensive line coach Mike Devlin, trust the hire there. He's got a lot of experience, and it's going to be a unit that needs to be ready for game day, because it's going to be a bit of a shift between what the Chargers have been doing on the O-line the last several seasons to what it's about to become in the next year or two. And to help that transition out, Coach Harbaugh also brought in another familiar face, and that's not this time from the San Francisco 49ers, but from the Chargers themselves. Welcome back, Nick Hardwick, former San Diego Charger, one of the best, if not the best, offensive lineman in Chargers history. This dude, man, I think I had his jersey hanging somewhere. The only O-lineman I've ever had in my collection. Dude was a legend in my entire time of being a Chargers fan up until, 2015, 2014. This was the dude. This was the man, right? The best, most reliable center in football that you could ask for. Nick Hardwick, hugely respected in the organization of the Chargers. I'm sure his legend lives through the players right now. They know who he is. They know how much of a big deal he is to the team. He coached high school for a couple of years, but now he's here breaking in as an assistant offensive line coach to help out Mike Devlin get this unit ready. And I'm super stoked to see where this goes, man. Navorro, Bowman, and Nick Hardwick, thinking about their return to the Chargers just gets me giddy. One day, maybe we say the same thing about, Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, but till then, man, like, this is one heck of a start. I love it, and I'm sure the players do as well, when a player turns coach and they just carry that huge reputation with them through the front door every day. Hardwick, man, talk about a legend of the Chargers coming into coaching unit that really does need the help there. So I'm very excited to see him get to work. One of the biggest things, side note, that I will always remember about Nick Hardwick was when he retired. Of course, it was a sad day. I remember, like, just throughout that one off season, we see an interview with him just months later. The dude had dropped like all the weight. It was insane. I remember seeing him and oh my God, who was the legendary left tackle for the Cleveland Browns as well. Both those guys just dropped the weight so fast. It was actually kind of around the same time too. So definitely kind of crazy to see how that works when you exit an NFL lifestyle. Awesome stuff there. All right, next up, we got some more names to run through here. Mike Elston coming in at defensive line coach. Again, another hugely important position for Jim Harbaugh. He believes very firmly that football is won in the trenches, and you want a guy who knows what they're doing. Now, of course, the connection here is obvious. Another Michigan man coming into the fold. But this dude's been coaching his butt off since 1997, y'all. I know there's probably people watching this video that probably weren't even born when this guy was coaching football. Kind of crazy to think about. He's been throughout football for a long time. Michigan, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. I think most recently Notre Dame. He was there for a long time. And then, of course, Michigan most recently. Huge amount of experience. And that's going to be coming into play here. Defensive line, majorly important to the Harbaugh way of football. So Mike Elston, we're in good hands. A lot of experience there, and I think he's going to be able to lead this team. Of course, the one thing, his experience mainly lays in college. So I'm hoping to see a good transition from college to the pros here. All right. Next up, we got Chris Gould coming in. Didn't find too much on this guy other than the fact that he was the assistant special teams guy, I think, for the Broncos since 2015. Other than that, didn't find too much on him, but welcome to the squad anyway. Hopefully things work out there. Special teams, I'm sure, led by, of course, Ryan Ficken. I think he knows exactly what he wants to work with there, so I'm sure we'll be fine. Another guy that's kind of a big deal, that's sort of flying under the radar here, man. I hope that we're pronouncing it right. I know Sanjay Lal, I think is how you say it, Lal or Lal. Wide receiver coach for the Chargers. Hugely experienced guy. Again, kind of reminds me of Mike Elston, but like of the wide receiver position. This dude's been kind of a mastermind since 1996. And this dude's worked with some of the best out there, man. And when you say like, oh, well, he got all these superstars, of course his job was easy. It becomes a pattern at some point, right? Where maybe he has something to do with the string of superstars that falls in his lap. Maybe that development has a lot to do with that as well. He's worked with guys like DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton. I know him and Percy Harvin were really tight, and Robert Woods. Some of the best to ever grace the gridiron, coached by Sanjay Lal. This guy, fan-friggin-tastic hire. He now has to, Keenan Allen and Josh Palmer to work with. Of course, hopefully he can get Quentin Johnston right. But man, this is a great hire for the Chargers, a wide receiver. And it kind of makes me feel like, receiver is going to be an important factor to their future in terms of draft, because they're going to bring in this guy to come help develop a lot of these young guys. So excited to see that, man. I can't imagine being a young receiver in this league, even Quentin Johnston, and coming into practice every week with Keenan Allen as a mentor and Sanjay Lal as well. Like that's fantastic, dude. Great hire there. Next up, senior defensive analyst Rick Minter. If the name sounds familiar, yes, this is Jesse Minter's dad. But I have to assume his inspiration to even get into football, because this man has been coaching since 19 77, y'all. And the award for longest tenure definitely goes to Rick Minter, who found some success. I don't know if it was like on a whim, like, hey, Dad, we need extra help over here in Michigan. You got a couple of days a week. You can come sort some stuff. Yeah, son, of course. I'll bring, the popcorn and the laptop, and we'll get to work. It feels like it worked out in Michigan. That's where he spent the past couple of seasons. But before that, this dude, again, he's been coaching his tail off since the 70s, which, again, just brings so much rich experience to the Chargers where they desperately need it. So defensive analyst, for whatever it's worth, we got a very experienced player out there, or experienced coach out there. Next up, we got defensive quality control guy, Robert Muschamp. I see his name and I think of Machamp from Pokemon. Muschamp. We'll say Muschamp. I think this was a hire from last year based on the photo, but also he was previously with the Georgia Bulldogs. Don't have much on this guy. Of course, defensive quality control. You can kind of base what the Chargers have been doing the last year to kind of help or hurt his resume, depending on your opinion there. So there's Robert Machamp. Next up, safeties coach Chris O'Leary. Is this the Chris O'Leary I'm thinking of? Either way, spent the last 6 seasons at Notre Dame. Coached. He was partially responsible for Kyle Hamilton and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I know this guy was actually hugely respected at Notre Dame, based on some of my readings. I feel like I know him somewhere. You guys are going to probably be like, director, of course, it's the guy. He was in Die Hard 5 or something ridiculous. I'll be like, oh, yeah, duh. But Chris O'Leary, another great hire for the Chargers in terms of DB. I think it's going to be an awesome defense under Jesse Minter, of course. And then finally, in terms of the defense, we got Dylan Roney, another Michigan man coming in. And again, I wasn't able to find too much on him. Of course, I know he was from Michigan, but I know he worked very closely with Mike Elston. Of course, the new guy there, the defensive line coach. So, yeah, I mean, again, you want cohesiveness. A lot of these Michigan men coming in, help bring the toughness for the Chargers. And lastly, this name kind of blew my socks off. It was in the reveal post for the Chargers yesterday, I think. I think it was actually Daniel Popper that added him to the list. I was like, what the heck is this man doing on our on the list? Where did he go? This is Mark Trestman. You guys know this dude. I think everybody here knows Mark Trestman as the head coach of the Chicago Bears back in the day, right? It's been a minute, but I certainly do remember Mark Trestman. And it's funny to see his name on this list, man. I'm kind of excited, too. He's coming in as a senior offensive assistant, so he's not, running the show too crazy on either side, but it just feels like another one of those hires that comes off the back of experience. He's been around since 1981, folks. And I think aside from that, his connection to the Ravens as their offensive coordinator back in 2016 has a lot to do with his hire as well. So Mark Trestman, welcome to the Chargers as an offensive assistant. Kind of interesting to see that name on the list, just kind of tacked onto the bottom there. But there you have it, Chargers fans, Bolt fam. There are your Chargers coaching staff hires. We went a little bit deeper than this list had revealed there. Of course, we were going off of the names provided by Daniel Popper in that post yesterday. A couple more on the back of my own research as well. Let me know if we missed any that should have been announced here. But for the most part, huge list of names, most of them new, fresh faces to add to the fold of a Chargers team that has completely taken a 180 to change identity and form this new Avengers-style assembly of talent behind a Jim Harbaugh, our new Captain America. So it's going to be an awesome season. Maybe some people will brush off this video. I can almost guarantee it won't get as many views. But for those of you guys that made it to the end, bravo. Welcome to the Director's Channel, where you're going to be thoroughly educated on the Chargers head coaching and future of the Harbaugh system and way. It's going to be a very, very exciting time to be a Chargers fan behind these human beings. Just as important as the players are in the field, the coaches responsible for their success are just as important. And I think for the first time in my time as a fan, I'm seeing the right moves made and the cohesiveness being put at the foreground instead of power. People want control more than they want success sometimes. And this is the first time I'm seeing the Spanos family kind of switch things around in that mentality. So congratulations to the Chargers, to its fans. Great hires right here. Can't wait to see how this all shapes up. It's going to be a fun season. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. If you guys are wondering where we got our sick merch shirt today, once again, check it out. Definitely check that out in the YouTube store. We got a whole bunch of cool Harbaugh-themed stuff in there. Should be a good time. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up and stay frosty. Get ready for this run game, man. It's about to get crazy in here.